as largely into the community, even the youth sector as well, because I had served in the National Youth Council of Kenya, and I had
so
also...
these are the things you had to prove in the application?
Yes, in the application.
Okay.
And, that takes time to build. So even when I applied for the first time, I applied in 2023, I went all the way to the interviews, but I did not get shortlisted for the fellowship.
Okay.
So
you didn't give up?
I was almost giving up, but I was like, okay, let me just, the best they can do is just say no, right. And that's okay. So I applied again this year, and I got a yes, and not just for the fellowship, but even to stay longer for the professional development experience. And I could say that it takes time to apply for the process month for the 2025 cohort. And there's about a 2 to 3 month window for the applications to be taken in. So I would really encourage young people across the continent to take their time, not to wait for last year, waiting for the 2 days to the application, to the deadline to apply. And it's a very long process. There are essays that you have to fill out, 250 words about your experience, and you have to be very authentic, using very simple language. And now, even with the advent of AI, they're discouraging us from using AI. Just use your own words. Doesn't matter how grammatically aligned they are, just express yourself how best you feel. If you have been really contributing to the community meaningfully, it will show in the application. And then you'll have an opportunity to have an interview where you can also express what you do, which is also very competitive, I would say. Kenya received about 6,000 applications this year. And from 6,000, they had to shortlist all the way to, I think, 100 for the interviews, and then 50 for the shortlisting to come to DC. So we have 44 of us who came to the US across different parts of Kenya. And I like even the gender equity in the room. You can see that the selection is carefully done to ensure that they are there.
I'm sorry,
50%.
Let me jump in, because we understand that you get to the program within the network by going to the embassy. Is that the same story with you, Angel?
Yes. Well, mine is quite different, but the U.S. Embassy is also very active in Madagascar, and they are organizing a lot of networking sessions. The YALI network is very active in Madagascar. There's a bunch of young people doing things together all the time. But I heard about this program 7 years ago because my sister was actually a fellow, Mandela Washington Fellow of 2017. So she went through the whole process. I've learned about the program then, but I was underage to apply at that time. I did the regional YALI program in South Africa. So I was part of this, and this is also my second time applying. The process is long and quite challenging, but preparation is key. You also need to share your story with other people and try to ask people to challenge your how you present your story, how you do your storytelling. So for us, it took 7 months from beginning to end to the end of the process. So we need to go through the application form first, where they ask you about your job, your work, your commitment to the communities. What are you doing in your current work, and also how are you going to apply what you will learn here when you're going to be back in your country. So that's the first part, and the essay was the biggest part of the application form. And then we needed to go through, in Madagascar, there were 600 of us that applied, so 0 less in Kenya's number. There were 10 of us, 11 of us selected to participate in the program. We needed to go through the interview at the U.S. Embassy, where they are challenging you about your work, what you wrote in the essay. So quite challenging process, but it can be done with preparation and with also help of people around you.
That's amazing. So it sounds like networking as well as being consistent and being firm and just move forward with it, because, as they said, it's not an easy process, but you do it in advance and you continue to network. That's awesome. Well, that's time for a quick break right now. And when we return, we'll continue our discussion with these YALI fellows from Madagascar and Kenya. They will have tips for young Africans who may be interested in participating in this prestigious U.S. government program for young Africans. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. But before that, we ask you to share your thoughts on this program that aims to empower young African leaders. Share this on our social media platforms at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Our hashtag is VOA Our Voices. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
You are with Our Voices. Welcome back. We are discussing the United States government Mandela Washington Fellowship Program that empowers future African leaders 10 years later. This program aims to help young Africans journey to effective leadership and gain the tools needed to impact their communities. Here in the studio with us to discuss this is Kuluna Ramaromande, fellow from Madagascar, and Angel Mbutia, a fellow from Kenya.
That's right. We're so privileged to have you, and I'm sure people on the continent, young people on the continent, want to hear what you have to say in terms of what your experiences are. But I want to shift the focus on leadership. Let's begin with you, Kuluna. What do you think is an effective leader on the continent? What would he or she look like?
Well, that's a tough question because I think there is a lot of angle to take that question. But for me, a good leader, especially in the African continent, is someone that has a clear and good vision, is inspiring to others too, because you need to bring people around you. You need to create a movement around you. Someone who is optimistic, because you need a lot of optimism and perseverance to work in the African continent, and someone who is very comfortable with change, because that's what we need now. We need to change. We need to swift mindset. There will be a lot of resistance to that, but we need to be resilient. We need to be comfortable with the people resisting what we want to implement. So yeah, if I need to summarize in 3 words, someone with a clear and good vision, someone who is willing to change, and someone who is inspiring for the others.
Okay.
Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and you know, it comes to me at a very interesting time when we are having the protests in Kenya, and we are seeing the young generation, the Gen Zs, coming out and calling out their leaders. And one thing that I have taken away from that process is that a good leader has to be empathetic. What we saw in Kenya was very sad to see young people protesting with just water bottles and smartphones, coming out in the streets peacefully protesting, and then police officers were unleashed on them, and 50 of them were shot dead just because they were asking their government for better standards of living, a better country. And I believe that every generation has a call of its time, and our call today is to ensure that we are able to call out our leaders and ensure that what we are paying taxes for is delivered. When we're talking about applying for Mandela Washington Fellowship, and you need logistics, you need a device, you need data. There are countries, there are young people who have no access to digital infrastructure, and that means that they have no access to such opportunities. And what does that lead us, or where does that leave us? So it is time that young people really stood out or got out of their comfort zone, got out of their X and Facebook handles, and go out and actually be active in their communities, and where their leaders are not being effective enough, they should stand in the gap. This is our continent. We have to be very deliberate about how we want to see it move and how we want to see it grow. We have to be very serious about it. It's about time we're in the 21st century. We are going into a fourth industrial revolution. It is time young people got out of their comfort zone.
Right. So you mentioned mindset also earlier. Do you think this program changed your mindset in any way?
It definitely did for me, because we are quite isolated in the island of Madagascar. We're not very connected to the other African countries or to the European or American continent. So it broadened my vision. It showed me the possibilities of working together, of creating regional partnership, of creating partnership with the United States or with other countries. So it definitely changed my mindset of going more toward the world, going out of your comfort zone, as Angel said, trying to see what is happening elsewhere, and not just being focused on what is happening in the island. So yes.
That makes sense. You might be growing from a local level leader to a global leader. So that's a good point. Now, Kulwina, can you maybe tell us, now that you're becoming, leaders, you're already leaders in your own capacities, but you're growing to become maybe a broader level leader, as you're saying, in your country, maybe on a global stage. What are young African leaders' challenges once you become a leader, or once you're becoming a leader? What are some of the challenges you're seeing for African young leaders?
For African young leaders, the 6 weeks process plus these 4 weeks of professional development experience, people from our country didn't, and our team did not go through all of that. So once we will go back to our country, we will need to face that kind of resistance, the mindset that is still there. But we need to implement it step by step. We need to keep the momentum. So that is one of the big challenge, I think. Also, a lot of a challenge inherent into Africa. Corruption, the mindset of people there. If we have the willingness to done, but it's going to be challenging. Yes.
Okay.
I'm so fired up. I can't wait to go back home and contribute to the conversation in Kenya. And I think two of the biggest challenges I'm seeing right now is the intergenerational conflict. Like she mentioned, we need to have leaders that are open to changes and are open to giving young people a seat at the table. And the other thing I'm saying is that we've championed for education, and even the US government as a significant partner to Kenya, funding education. So Kenya has so many educated young people, but they do not have jobs. So we need to open up the space more. We need to be able to give them an opportunity to create their own jobs, to create their own opportunities, to have access to freedoms and rights that they require. It's not like like what I've been seeing here, I'm so inspired that if you have a degree, you have access to opportunities. But back home, I see that you can work so hard, get a degree, get a master's, get even a, and that's very, very, very wrong.
But it's
Young
also
people,
to them to create the jobs, because one of the things is that maybe some depend on the government too much.
Yeah, when you talk about taxes and an environment that does not allow them to be able to set base, I think there's a lot to do in all stakeholders.
Well, that's our show for today. We want to thank our fellows, Kulunia and Angel, from Kenya and from Madagascar, for being with us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. It was an absolute pleasure. We wish you all the best for the future. Well, be sure to watch Our Voices on the VOA website at voa.com and our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episode and the top news stories from around the globe. Last but not least, thanks to our editorial and production team on Our Voices. On behalf of Voice of America, thank you all. Next time, thank you.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamode Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. This week on the Red Carpet, we chat with Ghanaian rapper and singer Amrado Bana about his musical roots. And we visit a garage in Ouagadougou where a mechanic is customizing and transforming automobiles. Those stories, plus South Africa's newly appointed Minister of Sports, a self-described former gangster, wants to promote a sport that has associations with South African gangsters. In celebration of hip-hop's 51st anniversary this August, the U.S. Embassy in Zimbabwe hosted a cross-cultural exchange program called Next Level, featuring 5 artist educators. Reporter Keith Baptist has the story from Harare.
A 2-week residency initiative in Zimbabwe aims to foster a cross-cultural creative exchange through the universal language of hip-hop music and dance. Plot Marco, a partner in the exchange program and founder of Jibilika Dance Trust, an organization working with young artists in Zimbabwe, says that the initiative received numerous applications from eager participants.
There's been so much enthusiasm, there's so much hunger, there's so much zeal, there's so much drive, and it comes at a time when hip-hop in Zimbabwe is really at its peak.
The program brought together American and Zimbabwean hip-hop artists to participate in workshops and classes, followed by live performances. Participant Nick Neutron says there is much more that unites artists.
My experience in Zimbabwe has been amazing. There's so many similarities in the art, but differences in the lifestyle, I guess.
Rebecca Archer-Kepner, a Foreign Service officer at the U.S. State Department, says while hip-hop music is thriving in Zimbabwe, challenges with monetization and providing artists with the tools to succeed in the entertainment industry remain a major issue.
The creative economy is really ripe in Zimbabwe. There's so much talent. There's so many amazing artists. And sometimes the thing that they lack are either contacts or business skills. And so we work a lot we bring artists from the United States to help them improve their network, grow their network, figure out how to do the business of music.
The group of artists from America said they were amazed to see how the hip-hop industry in Zimbabwe mirrors that of the US. However, artists like D1 say that there is still room to grow.
This Next Level program has allowed me to be a part of transforming the minds and the skill sets of some of the best rappers that I've ever seen.
Local artists like Tafadzwa Tarukwana, who goes by his stage name ASAP, and Zimbabwean rapper Banshee applaud the program, saying it has opened their perspectives into the business of music and the art of collaboration. Aisha Upchurch, site manager for the Next Level program, says Zimbabwe has a robust hip-hop culture, given the huge response they received from the applicants.
It's been magic as a site manager and someone who's been doing this kind of hip-hop cultural diplomacy work for over 10 years.
Participants of the Next Level initiative say it encourages artists to share their art and knowledge, with continuous learning and artistic growth for everyone involved. Keith Baptist for Voice of America in Harare, Zimbabwe.
Derek Safo Kantanka, known widely as Amrado Bana, is a Ghanaian rapper and singer who hails from the city of Kumasi, rapping and singing predominantly in the Twi dialect of the Akan language. Amrado is fast becoming one of the most versatile artists in Ghana's music industry, and he tells me that he initially turned to music as a means of supporting his family. Amrado first gained popularity for his rap battles hosted on local radio stations. The Kumasi native, who had ambitions to become a professional footballer, moved to Accra to pursue music full-time, a decision that his mother was not too keen about. He made his break with Yetensem, an innovative series in which he blended news and rap.
Personally, I never thought I could become a musician. I used to love football a lot. 14 years. When I was 14 years, I lost my father, and then my mom had no penny to cater for me, so I couldn't move on to tertiary. That was when I started working in a hospital. Then I discovered that I could rap through two people called AZ and Kwao, who discovered me on a radio freestyle section, and I had one at KFM. Doing music was based on survival because that was the only way out for me. So I started off with going on radio freestyles in Accra too, and I started battling people, losing some, winning some, and then I came out with the Yetensem, my weekly freestyles that shot me to fame, and then here I am today. My team had to sit me down when I went into depression after I'd returned from England, because I was contemplating on whether to continue my music career or maybe find something to do, because it wasn't picking up for me. Yeah, so that was when the Yetensem came. We used to brainstorm every evening to find something catchy that's gonna catch the eyes of people in the COVID era. I had to tell the team that we can't be doing this thing forever. And we started dropping major songs That was when I did my first hit song with Black Sheriff, Abotre, and then I kept on with the moment. The evolution is massive. This is just a young chap who was just rapping, a typical hardcore rapper who was just doing word plays and puns. And now I had to rediscover myself and tell myself that, yo, this is business. Aside the intrinsic motivation, you have to make sure that if someone is investing in you, the person has to make profit. I have family, I have a team, I have people around me that needs to get better as I get better. So I told myself to sit down, learn ways where you are going to tap into other markets, you get it? So I know you know that now I've started singing. That's part of the evolution.
What are you working on?
It's not finalized yet, but I have a new song out called Day Trash, a Broken Heart song.
Cheers to the live ones now,
In his garage in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, mechanic Sawa Wadiogo spends hours fixing, customizing, and transforming automobiles. His latest achievement was turning an ordinary car into a limousine. VOA's Gildas Da shares the story of this car enthusiast from the capital.
In 2023, 38-year-old engineering enthusiast Sao Ouedraogo embarked on a daring project. What was once a modest Honda Civic has been transformed into a glamorous limousine.
I also love challenges, which led me to cut the vehicle. My family, the people in the neighborhood, the garage customers, everyone told me it wasn't worth it, and that's what I was going to ruin the vehicle. I said, no, let me do it. It was only when I finished and they came to see it that they realized it was a fully functioning limousine.
Ouedraogo loved cars since he was 12 years old. After failing in 5th grade, he took mechanics classes and did small jobs in other garages. He ended up opening his shop in 2016. Since then, he has managed to turn it into a fully operational garage that employs 15 workers.
He's someone who dares, which is why I support him. I really admire his courage. We are all in for the challenges he wants to take on.
Ouedraogo says building a limousine is no easy task. Sometimes, he says, he had to break things and start over to get the right structure and materials. He took a year to prepare, draw his plans, and refine his research.
I had the chance to get into the limousine today, and it's really comfortable. Burkina Faso is truly commendable with the TV and cushioned seats. Really, it has all the possible comforts.
In addition to the limousine, Ouedraogo has transformed several standard cars into convertibles or barbecue cars. A barbecue car is a car equipped with an integrated stove system that can be deployed to grill meat. The car also contains a potable water tank for drinking.
He loves to give his all in terms of innovation, creation, modification, and tuning. He does a lot of things. I want to learn and do more than what my boss is doing.
It's a passion for us to create and invent car parts. Once we have the money, we can produce them in series for sale.
Ouedraogo showcases the limousine to the public at auto shows. The vehicle is often rented for weddings and other events, but its inventor says it is not for sale. For Gildas Da, Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, Betty Ayoub, VOA Africa.
South Africa's newly appointed Minister of Sports, a self-described former gangster, wants to promote a sport that has associations with South African gangster culture. The sport of spinning involves fast-moving cars and dangerous stunts, and as Kate Bartlett reports from Johannesburg, the way it's conducted is not always legal. Let's check it out.
This is spinning, a turbocharged sport where drivers spin cars in quick, tight circles while passengers perform treacherous, sometimes death-defying stunts. The sport got its start in South Africa's poor townships during apartheid.
We have the best drivers in spinning. And you can see today, you can see there's no seat belts, there's no brakes, but these people can control their cars. They are super, super, super drivers.
Marvin Clark promoted this event, which drew several hundred paid spectators. Some spinning is at organized legal events like this one, but much of it takes place on the streets, where out-of-control cars have killed spectators in the past. Those events are illegal and associated with gangsters. One such former gangster is Gayton McKenzie, who was sentenced to 17 years for armed robbery in his youth.
I grew up where the area that you are born in decide which you don't have a choice in which gang you become. As a gangster, going to jail was a badge of honor. You've made your bones.
He came out of prison and went into politics, running on a populist anti-immigrant platform. Now he's South Africa's controversial new Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture.
And there's two reasons why I want to do this. Well, three reasons. Reason number one, there's a massive interest, was my first point I made to you. The second point you make is it's dangerous because they're doing it everywhere because the police are chasing them sometimes. Now, once you regulate it, once you make it safer, and once you put the rules there that you can't do this, you can't do that.
The longtime spinning aficionado says his first task in the job will be to promote the sport. Renowned car spinner Kyla Oliphant says she's hopeful about Mackenzie's tenure as sports minister.
He'd like to make spinning big for us, legalize it. Obviously, we'd have the government behind us. I'm hoping that everything is going to go in the right direction, having funding for us, assisting us.
For many who grew up in South Africa's impoverished urban areas, danger was always a reality, and spinning was, and still is, a way of life. Kate Bartlett, VOA News, Johannesburg.
Thanks for watching VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Jackson Vunganyi. For more entertainment news, remember to check us out at voaafrica.com. We're also on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Until next time, goodbye everyone. Ethiopian singer and producer Jemberu Demeke is known for his innovative musical style, which he dubs tonic fusion. This unique genre is a blend of Amharic raps, trap music, and samples from various contemporary styles. Red Carpet caught up with him at his studios in Addis Ababa as he was preparing to release his second album, Esatuse. Let's check it out. Jemberu was busy in studio putting final touches on his album before its release. He says that Esatuse is a reflection of the diverse influences that have shaped his sound and the creative vision for Ethiopia's evolving music industry.
My music, I make it, I like to make fusion. I call it tonic fusion. So I kind of, find different aspects of modern music that I like, and then I try to combine those. For example, I'm currently working on a track called Leila, and it's this Jersey club beat mixed with some Ethiopian Amharic rapping with a little bit of trap, and also a little bit of I would say sampling going on. I'm in the zone what? Album that I've created around that has its own meaning, its own voice, and its own, outlook, visuals, and it's part of this greater journey I call Salion, which is a bunch of characters that I have that I interchangeably I'm going to define and show to the audience, and I'm going to also use this to say that we are not all people think we are. We could redefine things and we can push those limits and boundaries in music and in expression.
Jemberu's journey into music began behind the scenes as a producer. The self-described computer geek was fascinated by the technical aspects of music production. This background, meticulous attention to detail, and a deep understanding of sound engineering play crucial roles.
Hadn't I been a producer, I wouldn't actually start singing or rapping. So, when I started producing, it was because, I'm a computer geek, kind of guy. So every time I'm on a computer, I want to check out the next new app or like what's popping. An app called Fruity Loops or FL Studio. And, I'm dabbling with some beats now, and I have a few beats on like my computer, and I don't know any like musicians. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with these beats? And that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just try, let's try some bars. Let's try some rapping.
Jemberu's new sonic experimentation represents the evolving landscape of Ethiopian music. By incorporating Amharic raps with the rhythmic and melodic elements of trap music, plus other contemporary genres, he creates a sound that is both familiar and refreshingly new. His work is influenced by both local and international artists, which is evident in his ability to merge traditional sounds with cutting-edge musical trends. Tembelani Zondo, a young inventor in the town of Woodford, South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, uses recycled materials to build a car and other robotics. Zondo has big dreams and says he hopes to one day get the opportunity to make a difference with his talents. Reporter Yasan Hafeje has this story from the town of Woodford in South Africa.
22-year-old Tembelani Zondo has made a name for himself in his community for creating all sorts of interesting inventions with limited resources. The young inventor is not letting his circumstances hold him back. He says he believes he has been given a talent that he can use to change people's lives.
I can create everything, anything at any time. Since I was young, I was creating things. It's a God-given talent.
Tembelani made local headlines when he unveiled a car he built from scratch. Bugatti, a European luxury brand which can cost millions of dollars, is Tembelani's favorite car maker. He would never be able to afford a real one, so he decided to build his own model using repurposed materials.
What inspires me is, first of all, I love cars too much. So it is the reason that I decided to create one of them. I created the Bugatti Shark because that car is my best car. It is the brand that I like.
Tembelani lives in a modest house with his mother and 7 other siblings, with the family surviving on government assistance. Tembelani dropped out of school in the 11th grade, saying he struggled to concentrate in class. He has been unemployed since. Materials for his inventions are hard to access, and he often uses recycled materials in his community. With no formal training in mechanics, Tembelani has now shifted his focus to robotics. He is working on a few new inventions, including a robotic arm which he hopes can one day assist people with disabilities.
All my robotic stuff, I wish to help people with disabilities, as I created the hand robot for people who lost their hands because there are so many accidents.
Although he has only publicized his inventions on social media, Tembelani's talent and hard work has unfortunately not led to any concrete opportunities from either the government or the private sector. South Africa's unemployment rate among young people aged 15 to 34 years is 45.5%, according to the country's national data. Tembelani is one of them, struggling to hold down a steady job.
I feel very, very sad. I wish to find someone who will help me maybe who can fund me with money so that I can maybe start maybe small company, something like that, workshop, so that I can create good project.
Lack of opportunities continues to be a source of frustration for young people, but Thembelani says he is determined to overcome his circumstances and achieve his dreams. Ehsan Hafaji, VOA Africa, Woodford, South Africa.
Giza Negusi, CEO of Negus Winery, is on a mission to introduce Americans to Ethiopian culture through the experience of drinking tej, also known as honey wine. With the recipe dating back to over 3,000 years, Negus Winery brings a unique and delicious taste of Ethiopia to the United States. VOA's Phil Alexiou has more.
Which one is your guys' favorite? The honey wine. Yes, that's my mom's recipe. Yeah, so that's the reason why I call the Mama's honey wine. When I lived in San Francisco, I got a chance to visit a lot of top wineries, including Robert Mondavi and some other big ones. And this is semi-sweet, filtered. Okay. And then I couldn't find any wineries carry our product or honey wine or tej. So I was like, you know, it's better if I start something completely different for the people who never tried it before, something completely different, which is honey wine or tej. Tej is over 3,000 years recipe. It dates back over 3,000 years, the time of Queen of Sheba. International Those guys are from Ethiopia. And in Ethiopia, we drink tej in the different kind of vessel. We call it brele, B-E-R-E-L-E. So they cheers each other because that's how they celebrate drinking tej. We call it tej honey wine.
Yeah, so my friend Molly found it online and she recommended it as like the first Ethiopian winery in the area. I had never had honey wine before and I thought I really wanted to see what it was like. And it's truly been a delicious, delightful afternoon.
So my mom she's very good at it. I told her, hey, I really want to start a honey wine. I really want to introduce, but there is a big Ethiopian community in the Washington, D.C. area outside of Ethiopia. So I told her I need to move to D.C. or Virginia so that I can, you know, start my business where my niche markets are. And also I'll introduce for those who never had honey wine before. And Virginia became one of the top destinations for wineries down Purcellville. So I went to Purcellville and then I checked some of the wineries, and none of them had like carry honey wine.
So this is my first time. I actually found out about this due to, I think it was a DCist profile or maybe the Washingtonian. And the wine is fantastic. Especially the honey wine, we've really enjoyed it and no complaints here at all. We'll definitely be here again.
I love that it's also bringing Ethiopian culture and drink here in Alexandria.
My dream is to introduce our culture into the United States. To me, it's a big opportunity to introduce something completely different than grape wines.
Participants of the Extreme Chainsaw Carving Show have just a few hours to turn a cedar block of wood into a beautiful work of art. VOA's Natasha Mzogbaya reports from Arlington, Washington in the Pacific Northwest.
Two things strike visitors to the Extreme Chainsaw Carving Show: the sound of multiple chainsaws of various sizes hard at work, and the strong scent of fresh cut cedar. 20 chainsaw artists taking part in a 3-day marathon carving event in Arlington, in the state of Washington, showcased their work. Lane Warden says being able to improvise is a crucial part of the process.
Sometimes you start doing a bear and you might end up with a bird. You know, if you mess up on a cut, it doesn't necessarily mean you messed up the whole carve. It just means, you know, you gotta change direction. My mind's going 100 miles per hour every single time I'm carving.
Eagles, bears, wolves, owls are quite popular with the artists. Warden is carving an alligator, not something you'd normally see in the Pacific Northwest.
I get bored doing the same thing over and over again. So when I come to these shows, I just like people to see that there's, you know, other carvers out there that try new things all the time.
He says picking up the wood is the most challenging part.
The wood gets pretty heavy, like that Groot over there. That Groot probably weighs 300 pounds, so that's always the challenge, is just picking it up.
Chainsaw carving was seen as a predominantly male domain. In recent years, a growing number of women carvers have taken part in live shows.
For me, it's not so much about the competition, it's actually about the company and all the amazing people that participate in this event.
Lee Woody, with a day job at a software company, got into chainsaw carving 7 years ago, following an attempt to build a house for a squirrel. She says beyond craftsman satisfaction, this art has additional benefits.
It is a full body workout. A lot of the time doing these type of shows, I will have walked basically 10 miles around the carving, and then it's also for your arms and your upper body. You do this for 8-9 hours a day for 3 days straight, you definitely get tired.
Using sharp power tools and fire requires gearing up.
Safety is always on your mind. These pants, for example, they're chainsaw carving pants, so they have Kevlar in the front and wrapped around all around the back. I'm always, wear the ear protection.
More hard. It's cold and more clothes and more tools. I like more chainsaw carving.
Veteran artists swear that it's not as hard as it looks. One just needs to see what's hiding in that bulky block of wood. Natasha Mozgovaya, VOA News, Arlington, Washington.
Hello, you're welcome to Timeless Conversations. Today I have a guest who is more like a sister and who has made such great inroads in the art and science of broadcasting, production, and impacting many, many lives.
Olufunmilola Aduke-Inyada is a talk show host, broadcaster, film and TV producer, media executive, philanthropist, and journalist. She produced and hosted a talk show, New Dawn with Funmi Inyada, which aired on the NTA network for over 8 years. Famed for her intelligent, nuanced, and irreverent interview style. In 2011, Funmi Inyada was honored for her web series by the World Economic Forum and named one of Forbes' 20 youngest powerful women in Africa. On November 25, 2015, Funmi Inyada received an honorary fellowship from the University of Cumbria in recognition of her significant contribution to global human rights and sustainability. She was the first African woman to receive the award. She is a fellow of the Aspen Institute World Global Leaders Program. Currently, Funmi is a director at Creation Television, a film production company in the United Kingdom, acquiring classic African literary content for film adaptation to a global audience. She's also the founder of Change a Life Foundation, a social non-profit organization that acts as a bridge between exceptional but indigent youth and women and the individuals, agencies, and organizations with the capacity and willingness to meet these people's needs. Funmi is a member of the African Leadership Institute, a Tutu Fellow, and a participant of the Aspen Institute's Forum for Communications and Society. In 2012, she was honored by the then Lagos State Governor, Babatunde Raji Fashola, for her commitment to gender advocacy as she returned from a 5-day UN advocacy trek up Mount Kilimanjaro. The climb was organized by the UN to raise global awareness on its campaign to end violence against women and girls, and it brought together climbers from more than 32 African countries in a historic advocacy journey up Mount Kilimanjaro. Funmi Inyoda has served on the board of Farafina Trust and Positive Impact Youth Network. She actively participated in the Occupy Nigeria series of protests in January 2012. The protests were to resist the implementation of the government's fuel subsidy removal policy. Recently, Funmi Inyoda started another show, The Public Eye. The show connects people with stories to share, experts and institutions to discuss contextual issues with the aim of seeking innovative action. Funmi Inyoda, you're welcome, Funmi.
It's really good to see you. I'm so pleased to be here with you.
It's really lovely to have you here. You know, I remember when you started back in the year 2000, I think, about 2000.
Even earlier, even before New Dawn, yes. Because I've known you since the 90s.
Exactly.
When I was just coming out of university.
So, you know, don't make me feel too old. Now, I remember seeing you as somebody who was so focused. In fact, I used to say to myself, this baby is too focused, though. I hope she does not bust something. What's been your drive?
I mean, I don't even know that I am focused.
Oh yeah, you are.
Because I don't know any other way to be. But I've always been a bit intense. You know, even as a child, I was an intense child. My friends used to say that all my child photographs, I was scowling because I was thinking intensely. Yes. You know, so I mean, that's just the way I am. But I've always had a sense that I came here for a purpose. And I want to achieve the purpose. You know, when I remember as far back as maybe being a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old and sitting in front of our house in Shomolu and looking up at the stars and just being completely fascinated and enthralled by it, and also feeling small at the same time. That look at this wonder that we belong to. I already had a sense that we were living in a magical world and we were part of it. It was awe-inspiring and also scary. So it was a lot of thoughts always going on in my head, even from quite young.
So that focus has always been there.
Yes.
So the intensity.
It's intensity.
A drive to understand your environment.
Yeah, I don't do half measures. I'm either on or off. I'm not a dimmer.
So now, if you're either on or off, why did you go off New Dawn?
New Dawn was done. I burned brightly.
Yeah.
You know, and to be able to burn, you can't burn, even volcanoes, you know, they would simmer down and then they will burn.
Yeah.
You know, it's only natural that you need fallow time, you know, to be able to come, to heal, to regenerate, so that you have the energy to carry on like that. So New Dawn, I'd done it for 8 years, almost daily. I started as a kid, running around, running wild. And New Dawn was tough to do. You know, people didn't know that New Dawn was my idea and my production.
Yeah.
So I was producer, director, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
I had this great team at NTA who supported me. You know, the likes of Mr. Duru, Auntie Comfort, Auntie Helen, you know, they were there.
Yeah.
You know, but basically it was me doing the work daily. And it took a big toll we're also selling and marketing. You know, things have changed now.
Yes.
I always tell the kids that you don't know what we went through at that time. You know, there were very few companies who could even advertise at that time. We didn't have a proper rating system. There was no technology. So people who were gatekeepers could stand in your way.
Sure.
So I didn't know how big New Dawn was.
Yes.
I was just doing my own thing. And you know, you get to, you will go to companies, you go to advert agencies and all of that, and they'll say nobody's watching, it's in the morning. And I'm like, the feedback I get is everyone is watching. You know, and it was basically just being bloody-minded, people just being bloody-minded, not wanting to do things. And I was facing the challenges on the sustainable. Of course, we should be making money for it to be sustainable. But it was very difficult to make money, given the way things were at that time. Also, you also had all these people, especially as things were changing, DSTV came and all of that. By the way, I was the one that did the first interview for DSTV, I was the one that did the first interview for MTN. All of them came at that time. And you know, you had people who were coming and they would say, I remember somebody who was supposed to be headhunting. And it was interesting, a non-Nigerian had said to him, Fumi is the brightest thing on TV, you have to work with her. And I remember I came to his office. Later on, as I came into myself as a woman, I understood what was going on. He was just intimidated by me. But then I didn't realize, you know, I was trying to convince him, make him serious. And he said to me, you know, I don't watch local TV. Even my mother cannot make me watch TV. I remember thinking then, you don't respect your mother, do you? In my mind, but I never said so. You know, but then you are facing all sorts of things. All of it, now that I have the experience to understand, I realized it was nothing to do with me. It was other people's own issues, but it did affect how much we could do. By the 8th year, I had no more. I'd given all that I could give. I felt that done. It was done.
It was like some burnout.
It was like born through.
Whoa.
It was done. You know, it was the time that and I took a decision and I announced it on TV. Nobody believed me because I didn't even discuss it with anyone. I just announced on TV that at this particular day, I was going to stop. And I had a strong inclination of what was going to happen next. In fact, a friend of mine in London used to say to me that he watched, not being Nigerian, you know, he said when he watched on YouTube the last show that I eventually said that you have to die to be reborn. I don't remember saying it. You know, what I did realize that we needed a fallow period, you know, because I'd given a lot of my energy, a lot of my brain power and everything. It was time for New Dawn to bow out.
So, New Dawn was done.
New Dawn was done, yes.
All right, well, you said you knew what you were going into, because I was going to ask you, right, what then did you go into? What are you doing now?
So, I mean, you know...
Well, first you moved out of Nigeria.
Not immediately. You know, I wanted, because I'd spent 8 years in the studio talking to people, crossing my legs, painting my face.
I still crossing your legs.
I still cross my legs. I wanted to go around Nigeria. I've always loved traveling around Nigeria. I gave my father a lot of headache growing up, because around age 17 or 19, I would just go on those J4 buses and just go to some end of, go to Katsina, go to Kafansha, go to, you know, on my own.
Are you kidding?
Yes. You know, because I used to make the excuse I was going to visit my older sister, my half sister, Auntie Metoyin, who was married to an army officer. You know, and the old man, you know, there was no cell phone. I just disappeared. Even my sister wouldn't know I was coming. I would show up in her house and she would be like, "Oh, my power," you know, because I show up, you know, in the wrong part of the country wearing jeans, in where you're supposed to cover up. Just like, it's not like that now. But I had no idea. You know, but I wanted to go around the country because New Dawn had given me an opportunity to talk to so many kinds of people. And I could see the gap between policies and people.
Okay.
You know, and I wanted to bridge that. I wanted to bring the people making the policies and the people who are at the receiving end of the policies together without any hierarchical break between them, which was what we did. I then did talk with Fumi. We went around the country, you know, with a crew of...
How were you able to fund that?
So what I do is, because I learned from New Dawn, you're either pre-selling or you're selling adverts. I mean, of course, even all of that has changed. Technology has changed so much. I find it really exciting what's possible going forward. But at that time, what we did was pre-sell. So what I did was got the investment together. So I raised $1 million, you know, to be able to... Remember at the beginning, I started my own production company
I remember that.
In 1996.
Yes.
You know, so I've always run my own production company.
You've
so
always been your own boss.
When I was young, I had a sense that I was not really employable.
Because of your intensity?
Because of my intensity,
Yes.
you know, and also, I just had the sense that I just go and do my own thing. And, you know, so that informed what I was doing. So I raised the investments and funding for that. And then we also pre-sold, you know, to different organizations, segments ahead to be able to do, which helped me eventually, because when we then faced losses, including fraud, massive fraud, I was able to recover because I didn't have big loans.
Right.
Of course, that came later because you can't do business without loans.
You can't, certainly.
But yeah, so I did that. And then I wanted, because at that time my daughter was at sort of like the age where I wanted her to go to school in England, to go to boarding school in England. And I didn't want her to be there on her own. I wasn't going to leave her in a new culture on her own. So I wanted to also be there with her, because I was particularly wanted to do, because I'd done, you know, New Dawn was very newsy. It was daily, every day. So you have to always react. And for me, with that kind of intensity, I'm reacting with every fiber of my being. I wanted to then write. I wanted to do long form. Because long form allows the kind of reflection that I'm better at. My voice is better reflective than reactive. You know, which meant I wanted to do like documentaries and films and shorts and things like that. And so that's why I got a partner and we started a company in the UK to be able to do that, with the view that I'll be going and coming. Because I've always seen sort of like the different parts of the creative industry in Nigeria, as at that time, it's becoming better now, kind of worked parallel instead of working together. So you have literature that wasn't coming together with filmmaking. You know, so what's the use of, there's no need to write new stories when there are so many stories already written and more stories being written, you know, and so on and so forth. So those are the things I wanted to marry. I also saw what was going to happen with tech. You know, and I found tech very exciting.
Each time you talk of tech, you light up. Yes,
because, you know, I don't like to be held down. I don't like to always be talking about what's not possible. There must always be a way. And what tech does is that good tech, you know, bear in mind, I'm also not a fan of good or bad. Everything is just a tool.
You just implied good and bad now.
So that's why I stopped myself.
Okay.
You know, and I said, you know, it's the way you use it. So if you are using the tech with a lot more wisdom, there's so much we can do, because it sort of takes all the old power structures and it shakes it up. You know, and if the old power structures was too restrictive, it means that you can create some new power structures which can also, you know, start to challenge what is. You know, and that means that you can rise. So you can solve a problem either from, you know, the warm side view, but sometimes you come like an eagle from the top down. You know, so I like that tech can do that. It can just come up. Look at what happened in our industry. You know, just tech changed it, whether you like it or not. So
it's
like,
still changing.
It's still changing. We're in entropy. We're in this period where it's still a bit chaotic, but it's exciting what's happening and what's going to happen. So what happened to me, you know, with New Dawn, for example, couldn't have happened to a young person now in that same way, because you can't just say, oh, nobody's watching. The views are there.
The
you know,
views.
I'll just be telling you, are full of
the likes, the clicks, and all that.
Exactly, it's all there. You know, so it's exciting in that regard. And if you extrapolate it to more than just tech, you know, even if you think about what it means, in that it is an idea of taking the core, and the machine can learn, you know, and it learns from what is core programming it, and begin to act in a certain way. If you take it to other aspects of life and living, I think it brings us closer to the idea of creation.
Okay, we'll take a break now. It's still Timeless Conversation. My guest is Funmi Iyoda. Yes, Funmi, we were talking about what you did next after that.
Yes.
Okay, now, you moved around Nigeria a little bit, made some inroads in terms of having guests, meeting people in their communities, in their locale, but you stopped it again.
No, I mean, and we must come back to the back end of production in the country. So that was 13 documentaries. It was 13 full-length documentaries. And that would be one of the first productions. I don't know if there was any other place out of Africa that was nominated at both the Banff Festival and the Monte Carlo Festival in the documentary category of its own, not in an Africa category,
Okay.
not in a female category, not in
Okay.
any of the sub-categories, these big boys, do you know what I mean? So critically, it was really successful. I remember flying to SA and being in the mall and people telling me that they saw these documentaries on DSTV at that time. So it was really successful. It's back to the same issue again back here. In that, and that's, we must really think about it at the end of the day. It's the same thing for the tomato seller and the pineapple seller and those of us selling content. If you have a situation where the economy is struggling, and when the way to determine when the economy is not struggling as much is really in terms of productivity, how many products can be made in that country. Because at the end of the day, if you watch Korean dramas, for example, they have all these placements of all sorts of things, from phones to coffee to it's all made there. Or global companies that are operating out of that country. It will also show in everything, because at the end of the day, what is the amount of the total advert spend in Nigeria, you know, or media spend in Nigeria, vis-a-vis the number of media platforms in Nigeria. Even those of us who have risen to the top of it and make money, really, how much do you make to make the back end make sense? So do you make enough money? Look at the movies that are being released. What is the highest grossing cost of how much do the highest grossing movies make? There was a point when I wanted to partner with some Chinese investors to set up 200 screens in Nigeria. Actually, Lagos alone, because we did the research. And for Lagos alone, 200 screens.
Are you kidding?
You understand? So actually, for it to make sense, you know, for what we're doing. But that didn't happen. I don't want to go into the stories of why that didn't happen. It wasn't for lack of trying. You know, that didn't happen. So the back end is key. And the back end is back to the infrastructure of everything. You know, as it is difficult to sell tomatoes, that is how it is difficult to sell content in an environment where, for example, even like Netflix has come into Nigeria and all of that, the amount of money they'll commission stuff in Nigeria is not the same amount they'll commission even in South Africa. You know, back to really what your market value is. You know, so there's no shortcut to solving our bigger problems. That said, of course, there are new ways and there are more extensions of ways to make money in the back end for content in Nigeria. I mean, this is not the whole conversation where we can go into that, but really, we have to look at the back end of everything. How much money really can you make from it? And can the money sustain what you are doing and grow it further?
But making money from it presupposes...
So what we see and envy in other countries, we don't pay enough at African stories. I smile. You know,
I'm one of those who says that.
You know, I mean, I think that we should talk to ourselves first before we're even worried about what people are thinking about us. You know, we overvalue the opinion of other people. We don't value ourselves. We don't value our people.
But isn't that why we should tell our own story?
To ourselves.
Yes, first.
You understand?
Yes.
So we won't be talking about telling African story because we didn't wake up this morning and think first and foremost I'm African. I think I'm Nigerian.
That's what I'm
you
saying.
Understand? So in Nigeria, first and foremost, say to ourselves,
what's our reality?
So what does reality mean?
Reality.
And what lens are we looking at reality from?
Yes.
We have also learned that through what tech has done with media in the world, that everything really can be manipulated.
Yes.
Opinions can be manipulated. And the challenge with some of that is that once you believe something, especially if you have the collective believing something, you will replicate it over and over again. All of my life, I've known us to do nothing but complain about Nigeria. Not because there are no issues in Nigeria. There are big issues in Nigeria. But I used to think that when we complained about Nigeria, it was because we wanted to do something. I've realized that we have what I call trauma bonding in Nigeria. We truly just, and it's understandable because these things have happened and they're horrible. We just want to talk about them. Oftentimes when we've come to the point of, let's do something, I've always seen it's sort of pushed back. That is not to say there are no people doing things in Nigeria. People doing amazing and excellent things. We don't pay attention to them either.
Who is that pushback from?
All of us.
Yeah, but then we can't keep saying it's all of us. So Some of us may complain and also...
myself more than before, more consciously. I'm paying attention to those doing extraordinary things. I'll give you an example. In EU, there's Father, you know, he's not only doing the research, he's writing books about how to do community development, you know, the overall Nigerian development from the community level, you know. These are things that should be in curriculums in universities. These are things that we should be discussing. The other day I went to FIRO, the federal, since last year. I didn't even know that. I wanted to go and I wanted to go and find some researchers for some things. They've been shut since last year. I shared it here. If you look at that place, it's right between Oshodi and Mushin.
Yes.
Oshodi should have been a big transport hub.
Yes.
Mushin is a vibrant,
huge
incredible
market.
commercial.
And
And
arrive at Ewawele. Right, this is what we have. I say, hey, what's going on?
Wele, all my life. I'm 50 now.
Yeah,
I'm
congratulations.
50 now. You know why I say it? I'm actually going to be 51. Why I say it is that as far back as even I can remember, this is what we do.
You see,
this is our thing.
I understand
and
what
the challenge
we do.
with that is that we are, and this is not to say we don't want to. It's like the other side. You said, oh, you know, I heard when you said, okay, so what should we do? I'll give you a practical example. The elections are coming up next year.
Yes.
I don't know how we got was electoral reform.
Yes.
I think they were too focused on stopping women from ending up in power.
Yeah.
They did not pay attention
Yeah.
to some of the things that have been passed. It's going to be much more difficult to rig elections in
Sure.
the next election.
It will be.
This is a big win. It is also going to be easier to register to vote for all of us. It means that to be able to swing it, you know, because at the heart of all of this is poor leadership. Behind poor leadership is disengaged followership. You know, I'm not saying we don't have problems. I've used this example many times before, that if I come with you now, Mr. Agumbawo, and I say, Mr. Agumbawo, my house is down the road. Come and follow me, let's go and eat a bar in my house. When I get to my house, and my house is a mess, my reaction, if I said, Kole Dafunle, and I just start going on, this house is a mess. Can you see the mess in the house? You are not blind. You can see the house is a mess.
Yes.
My natural reaction should be, gosh, what has happened here? Okay, Mr. Agumbawo, please wait. Let's make it another day. Let me clean my house. When I finish cleaning this, I will call you back.
Or I should join you in cleaning it.
Or ask
because
you,
I'm parcel of it. Yes.
That's what I mean practically.
Yes.
That we need to do.
The practicality also should include us telling our story where it is positive. We've told enough of the negative.
But
that's
we're
what
saying
I'm
the
saying.
same thing.
Yes, we are.
You know, so that's what I'm saying. That
Yes.
you know, we cannot continue to trauma bond. What we do is trauma bonding. Every day, they kidnap my mother. You know, the other day they kidnapped my own father too. In fact, they kidnapped 3 people in my family. What I want to hear is, what are we going to do? Because if we as people really change our minds, our leaders will know that we have changed our minds.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying it is easy. I'm not blaming us. We're all in this together. It's hard.
Yes, I know it is
but
hard.
I'm saying, and I'm not saying, I'm not even, notice I didn't say celebrate or not celebrate. I'm not saying we shouldn't tell our story. I'm asking us, what story do we tell ourselves? Are we talking about the likes of Father Ansley? Are we talking about the boy that's making solar power in Borno? Are we talking about even you that are sitting here? I came for this show because I know who you are, Mr. Agumbawo.
Yeah.
I know who you are.
Thank you.
I want to tell your stories the way it is. I want to hear the story. If I say to, and I've seen this happen, if I pitch to a bank, for example, that we want to do, you know, development talk in the area of content and all of that, and that the keynote speaker should be Mr. Agumbawo, they'll say, no, we should go and bring somebody from London. We should go and bring somebody from America.
Because that's where they have tilted their attention to.
2 things. One is a racket.
Yes.
Somebody's going to be able to make money, more
Yeah.
money that way, because
Yeah.
they're changing dollars.
Yeah.
The other one, we don't value our own people.
That's true.
It's a simple matter of not value. We overvalue others.
In fact, you see, talking about not valuing our own stuff, right, is actually at the heart of this going to be very controversial. Most times, people who come from our society, and I mean generally, right, they have this notion that for someone to come from a polygamous background, as they say, you have missed something. That, oh, you should have been ideal if your parents were 1 man, 1 wife. My father had 4 wives. You understand what I'm saying? I relate with all of my siblings. In my family, there's nothing like a half brother, half sister. Is either a brother or a sister. You understand? My mother was the first wife. You get? Now, I have friends whose parents were just my wife and I know what their families look like, right? Their families are not half as close as my family is.
I think that we are telling our stories. I think we don't value our storytellers.
That's it.
I think this example, they are backward.
Yeah.
You understand? Even in terms of people telling stories, whether if I go back to content itself, remember what I told you about New Dawn, what our own people said?
Yes.
That I don't watch NTA, and I don't watch you, and I know this. I get that feedback all the time. They don't call me anymore because I think maybe I'm no longer. They don't call me anymore because I think maybe I'm no longer a woman, or maybe I'm not successful. They don't call me to all these successful women programs to come and talk. You know, and I'm thinking, but I haven't heard you call somebody, you know, maybe not even the Yaloja. In most locality, there will be women in that locality who have done amazing work in terms of, you know, being able to build an enterprise, who are deep thinking. They may not speak English, or they may not speak English the way we want them to speak it, but they are successful women. Why is nobody talking to that one? Because we don't value them. You know, so whether it is in the area of commerce, it is in the area of content or anything, we already have everything we need. We don't. It's the same thing with our food. I can't tell the number of people who say to me, for example, oh, you know, I'm sure you don't eat Nigerian food. That's why you look like this. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. If you want to ask me, and ask me, I will tell you what I eat. You know, I do eat Nigerian food. You know, and the reason I eat it is because somebody was saying to me the other day, oh, I said, do you know how complex it is to make ogi?
Yes.
It is a fermentation process.
Yes.
And everybody knows now that fermented food is good for your guts. Do you understand? Gari and fermentation. We don't even know what it is.
Yes.
What if you don't know it, how can you value it? You know, so I'm just using these practical, so-called smaller examples to extrapolate into bigger things. So even, for example, in the area of leadership, the few people who are even doing good things, we're not able to ascribe them the real value and therefore to support them. Remember what I said about tech again.
Yes.
You get more of what you do. You get more of what you believe. If we don't believe in anything that is ours, you will get that thing will fall apart because you need the collective to come behind it to make it happen. So we are focused, you know, we don't know who our ward chairman is. We don't challenge the system itself.
But we do even understand